Well, welcome to Dow's Weekly Digest. Say, let's take on the week, shall we? And the theme for this week then I've got is the spirit of service. You know, I had a recollection of a spirit of service. I was asked to represent my region and speak before a group of agents. And this was kind of in a breakout. So there'd be 3 breakout sessions. I would speak to 50 agents, and they would do kind of a round robin and come and listen to me. There was Boca Raton, beautiful resort. The connections were terrible, and I got there late, and I mean the day before, of course, but it was late. And so one of the first things I did, analytical me, was get ready for the next day. Called for room service and set up a wake-up call, set the clock, got my clothes out and got all set. I got thinking, so well, maybe I better call for breakfast. So I called for breakfast and I said, well, I'd like to have 1 poached egg, please. I love poached eggs. And I would like some orange juice, and I'd like some bananas with some skim milk. And oh yes, the toast. Please make sure that the toast is hot. Oh, we'll be sure to do that, Mr. Bartling, and we'll have that for you. And the wake-up call was for 6 a.m., and the breakfast was to be there at 6:30. 6 a.m., right on the dot. I get the call. I jump out of bed and get the shower and things ready. 6:30, guess what? It's knock on the door. Here is Luis. And he then rolls it on in, and of course, Luis is in a beautiful uniform, pressed, his shirt, everything. Speaks real good English. And Luis then describes everything. Poached eggs, to there's the salt and pepper, to everything. Mr. Bartling, I know you ordered bananas. And I personally got looking at those bananas, and they weren't the freshest. So I took the liberty, sir, to bring you some fresh strawberries. And I also kind of thought that, maybe with fresh strawberries, skim milk maybe wouldn't be the thing. I brought you some skim milk, but I also brought you, sir, some cream, fresh cream. Also, I noted that you wanted your toast to be hot. And I don't blame you. I kind of like it that way too, sir. And he reached under the table and brings out a toaster. And he says, if you don't mind, when you tell me when you're ready, I will start your toast. Go to it. So he puts the toast in the toaster, folks. He even butters the bread. I'm talking about the spirit of service here, folks. And I think you see some examples here from Luis. And so Luis did fantastic. And so I told him so. And so I was ready to, sign it and give him a tip. And believe me, breakfast at the Boca Raton is not cheap. But I went ahead and gave him an excellent tip because he did. He had that spirit of service all the way through, sir. And he was just kind of ready to roll out the door there. And he said, by the way, when are you speaking? I said, I'm speaking at 8:30. He said, well, I'm sure you probably didn't have a chance because you said you got in late in that. But if you'd like, you could give me your shoes and I'll go get them shined. And I'll get them back here before 8:30. Well, sure, that's a good idea, Luis. And he did so. I mean, I bet within 15 minutes, folks, my shoes were back and shined and everything. So I'm speaking before this group of 50 agents. And again, it's a round robin. I was so really taken back by the service that Luis gave me. I shared that story with each of the groups that I talked to. The next day, Luis sees me. He says, Mr. Bartling, I want to thank you for everything you've done. I said, what did I do? He says, I think I got like 150 calls for service personally asking for me. I said, Luis, you deserved it because you really gave me excellent service. So much so that indeed I wanted to share it with everybody. So that was my recollection, folks, of spirit of service from Luis. The theme for today is the spirit of service. Let's first start, though, with a little cowboy wisdom, shall we? It always helps. Whether the glass is half full or half empty It depends, folks, on if you're pouring or if you're drinking. Cowboy wisdom. You bet. Who's buying those pictures, huh? Who's buying those pictures? Cowboy wisdom. You know, you might be a Lutheran if you're holding the wedding reception, or maybe you're even your 50th anniversary in the fellowship hall, and you feel really guilty that you're not staying around to help clean. That is just inbred, that you're there to help in some way. And here you were the guest of honor, and you're still feeling guilty because you're not there to help. You might be a Lutheran. How about South Dakota trivia? Do you know what the state of South Dakota state dessert is? Well, it's a German dish. And it's a German dish that's called Kuchen. It's Kuchen. It's a German dish. And it's kind of like a custard, but maybe a sweet dough, and it's got a filling. Kind of depends on the type of year. So you could have what? A rhubarb filling. You could have a strawberry filling, or you could have an apple filling. So kind of what was in season. One group of Germans that settled the area was around Eureka. They grow a lot of wheat. And so much so, I'll make sure I got the facts here right. In 1890, they called for wagons to load up these 3,300 cars to load up. There was that much wheat. But of course, from that wheat, then they make this dough, and this sweet dough, and then good old bread can fill a person up, you bet. So that is the state dessert, Kuchen, South Dakota trivia. Spirit of service. What's the Bible say about this? Well, you think a lot, probably. Yeah. So I took a couple examples of service to others. This comes from 1 Peter 4:10. As each has received a gift, use it to serve one another as good stewards of God's varied grace. You see, indeed, it tells us in the Bible that each one of us receives a certain gift. And it's kind of unique to us, but it's not for us to open up and use ourselves. It's to help others, as it's saying here in First Peter. Those gifts, the ones that I receive, is to help others. Help others. Ephesians 2:10, for we are his workmanship, created in Jesus Christ for what? Good works, which God prepared beforehand that we should walk in them. And finally here, Galatians 6:10. So then, as we have opportunity, let us do good to everyone, especially to those who are of the household of faith. So those indeed are just some small examples of service to others and what the Bible has to say about that. Carrying forward this spirit of service, let me give you now a couple illustrations. Now the first one I'd like to give to you would be within our industry a little bit. It comes from a wise agent no longer with us, of course, Mr. Ben Feldman. He brings out this point here. It's not about the product. It's about what the product does. Why does a person buy a drill? They don't buy a drill to have a drill. They buy a drill for a problem that they have. The problem is they need to make holes, and the drill takes care of that. This product takes care of that problem. And by the way, this makes an excellent wedding gift. I had someone kind of wise share that with me, and I didn't think about it till he said that. He says, at wedding that you look at sometimes when they open the gifts and it's at the table, there's a lot of things, and they're for the lady. And maybe it should be, folks. But he says, the drill can kind of be for him, and he says, you know what, she's going to like it too. So it does make a real good wedding gift, and you probably won't get a duplicate. And they probably won't take it back, folks. They won't take it back. Because even if they have one, he'll say, well, that's mine. And she'll say, no, it's ours, and it's going to be in the house. So it makes a good wedding gift. But getting back to Ben's kind of simplicity of that, getting to the holes, okay, he says, likewise, no one wants to buy insurance. They have a problem, and it worries them. maybe for their basics things for their home, for their families, and looking forward. That problem many times is what? Income protection. And the product that you have, that you're willing to offer your client to take care of that need, and that our internal wholesalers can help you with, is what? Income protection. Income protection. Sometimes they'll come, that being new agents, they'll come right out of a school, so to speak, and they're learning about what? Product. And what the product does. It's this age, and let's look at what the dividends do here. Look at the cash value here. Look at this column of the illustration. And they get so much ingrained in product that they forget to get down to the basics, and don't forget the problem. And are you bringing to highlight what the problem the person has? And are you so in depth that you're speaking of what? Product all the time. So remember to keep it simple, and in the spirit of service, am I listening to be able to hear what their problems are and how we're able to solve the problem. Let that come forth first. Say, I do have a product to be able to help with this problem here. Here's another example of a spirit of service. Think in your mind when I say a used car dealership or a used car salesman. People are not wanting to take mass transportation. And so they are looking at buying quality used automobiles. Example, my son Justin in New Jersey. He bought a used automobile so that he could then use that in lieu of some of the mass transportation that he was going to have to take there. Well, this particular firm called ACV Auctions, and they had already been in the business and they had the experience, and then they applied technology. How are they applying the technology? They have these online auctions for dealerships, so the dealerships can go online and then bid in the auction. Now, if they are a member, then they can privy themselves to, on this particular car that maybe is coming up for auction, a very high-tech undercarriage diagnostic. Another diagnostic that will listen to the engine. And from the engine, it can detect how much amps are going out and other technical things, just from listening to it itself. It will do a diagnostic scan on the body, diagnostic scan of the interior. And then it will assist the dealership for, if need be, transportation of said vehicle that's bought there. So it's taking care of the whole cycle there. And frankly, I haven't really thought, being out here in the Midwest, because we drive everywhere, of the boom of the used car dealership. But I could see where it would be the case. And they're located in Buffalo, New York. They really are coming forth and bringing that spirit of service. This next illustration I call, even the strongest become stronger with teamwork. As I shared with you that I was very fortunate, blessed to be around some horses. And my Uncle Emmett, he raised horses, but he used them for pulling, competition of actually having work horses to pull. So when it would happen, sometimes close by, the whole family would go, of course, in support. So we'd go with Uncle Emmett, help him get the horses ready, harness them, so forth. So my dad, my mom, my grandpa, make it a whole day event there. Well, at one of these events, I got to see one of the biggest horses I ever saw. Now, of course, I was a kid, and everything's big to a kid, right? But these are big horses, folks. They are big horses. They were Belgians. The breed of Belgian folks, they can get over 7 feet tall. That horse's hoof was as big as my head. And the horseshoe, my Lord. Now, maybe you've heard of sometimes at fairs and things of tractor pulls. The tractor will pull it, and there'll be a sled, and it seems like as the tractor goes down, the weight will start to move forward on that sled, okay? with a horse pull, they will start with a certain weight. It'll be on a sled too, and they'll have to pull it a certain distance. And if they make that distance, then they'll go to the next round and they will add weight to that. But it'll be the very same sled that each team of horses will come up to and hook up to. So it'll be kind of equitable in that regard there. With a Belgian horse, he weighs 3,000 pounds. He can pull by himself around 7,000 pounds. You get a team of Belgian, and I said one horse is 7,000 pounds. You get a team, and a team can do 15,000 pounds. With an experienced driver and a trainer to show these horses not to be independent. The trainer will teach them how to, when they hear the vocal command, that they will pull on the traces together. But in doing so, folks, they can haul up to 25,000 pounds just with the energy, and energize and energize and energize until it becomes synergize, that together they can do more. And again, the heart of that horse for that trainer, and you see them get to the end of the line, and then the driver will give another command. You can see those horses as they lift their legs up and everything, how they're proud of what they did for their driver when they reach that line. And when they get close and they can't make it, oh folks, the strain that they do together, and they know again together and stuff. And sometimes the driver will then bring them back a little bit, so give them a little slack, and then he'll give them again, and they will just strain. It's quite an event to see, and to see these big horses do that. My goodness sake. So even the strongest become stronger with teamwork. Well, hopefully, in thinking of the spirit of service, folks, you're thinking of financial markets. Let me give you some quick examples here of why you choose financial markets to help you. We answer the phone. We like to say, and we, again, put our strain out there and prance our hopes, maybe, of unmatched service. The knowledge and collective knowledge, again, bringing forth that synergy of what the product does for your client. Turnkey sales programs. Let me give you a fast example here, folks. Our graphic design person, Charlotte Bing, worked with one of our internal wholesalers who was in turn working with the agent. And the agent was going to put on a virtual webinar. And the agent was one of the participants, not the sole participants. And Charlotte Bing, again, brought her talents to the forefront and helped design that from the invitation to the whole cycle. Again, energize, synergize. The spirit of service there. So when I say turnkey programs, ask your internal wholesaler, say, what have you got to help me with marketing? Let them share some ideas. So those are just some examples I wanted to quickly share with you on, you might say, our mission, that when we hit the door at 7:30 in the morning here to help you, that we have those imprinted within each one of us here at Financial Markets to give you that spirit of service there. In looking at who we do business with, we look at the spirit of service. And one of the carriers that we work with is Principal. Principal, we think, brings forth that spirit of service. One of their niches is the business market. And they look at all different ways that they can help you, then help that business client uncover some of their needs and wants that they've been worrying about. And they didn't know who to go to. And that's you, with the help of your internal wholesaler. Let me share with you just a couple here. This here is entitled The Concepts Guide, and it helps discover the right solution for their business. And particularly, it's going to look at key benefits for key employees. And believe me, every firm has one. So ask your internal wholesaler about that key employee concept guide. The key employee concept guide, that's to ask them for. Okay. The next one I have here is entitled the Opportunity Guide. It's particularly looking at the property and casualty agents out there. It helps you explore more solutions for your clients. And I just said that your clients. You know, if you say, well, no, I don't do that, they'll go down the road. That what gives that competitor an edge there, perhaps. Talk to your internal wholesaler about opportunities of offering more solutions for your clients. On an individual basis, here they have a nice little sheet. And this nice little sheet just has little yes, no questions. So they're keeping it simple. But it's going to ask them what? We'd like you to prioritize your needs, and then we'll help you meet them. So it asks them some basic questions, yes, no, and then from that, you can then springboard and start to ask questions, learn more, and then what? Show them how this particular product will solve that problem. But you've taken the time to discover the problem before you jump into the product. So those are just a few examples on what the spirit of service, that principle, brings to our table that we're able to serve you. So be sure and ask your internal wholesaler. Say, you know, I've got a sole proprietor and they are really doing well. Just like the example I gave of used cars. Do you have any used car sales dealerships in your area? They may be doing very, very well. And you don't see sometimes a lot of advertisements and all this kind of things from used car salesmen. They pretty much by word of mouth, get out the word. But it sounds like, folks, that market is doing very, very well. Might be an opportunity to call on that client. You know, you can offer them term insurance when they do a loan on a car for we can go down, I think, $25,000 a term. That term insurance will be much cheaper, many, many times, than credit term will be. Maybe you have the opportunity there. Well, let's go on down the trail here of spirit of service and look at some recommendations. The book that I would recommend is entitled Delivering Happiness, A Path to Profits, Passion, and Purpose. I like this book. Number one, they're not bashful about talking about profits. That's not a bad thing, folks. If you don't make profits, you're not going to be able to service your clients. That's part of the mission statement, you might say, of this organization that this book is about. Now, the author's name was Tony Hyson, S-H-I-E-H. And Tony is looking at particularly one corporation, and it's Zappos. And of course, different sections of the book will cover those three P's that I spoke of. Profits, passion, and purpose. Now the poem, the author is a David Ferry, F-E-R-R-Y. It's entitled, What It Does. What It Does. Cute little poem there. In the spirit of service, the song that I have is by Martina McBride, In My Daughter's Eyes. In My Daughter's Eyes. It goes on here, in my daughter's eyes, I am a hero. I am strong and wise, and I know no fear. But the truth is plain to see. She was sent to rescue me. I see who I want to be in my daughter's eyes. Nice song. The movie I'd like to share with you then came about in 2017. It's by Disney, and it's entitled Coco, C-O-C-O. And it's about a young Mexican lad, and he loves to play the guitar. So it shows the power of long-term, sometimes the path that you take in getting to those long-term goals gives you the opportunity to have this spirit of service. So the little animation movie is called Coco of 2017 with Disney, and indeed, I'd highly recommend you watch it with your kids or your grandkids. Our video comes to us here from a principal, and I'm thinking of the spirit of service to our parents. It shows a little bit of an example of, again, I speak of that term life event, when you have to start to talk to your parents maybe about some money issues, where they are, and then where life events may take them, maybe on health needs. So I think you'll like it.
Got to remember, money's really emotional. So having respectful money conversations with our parents really begins with just having honest conversations with our parents and saying, here's the things that I'm concerned about, and I want to make sure that you've got this base covered. One way that you may be able to start the conversation is just by asking, how can you help? And little things like, can I mow the grass, or go to the grocery store, or prepare your taxes, and let that be the beginning point of a bigger conversation. When we start thinking about health care and what that can look like, especially the end of life for a lot of folks, that's a really emotional and hard subject. And it may be helpful to have somebody that's not related to your family in the room while you're having the conversation, like a financial advisor. Remember, your parents may qualify for additional resources that could help them with things like prescriptions, utilities, and healthcare costs. If this is a concern that you have, the time to start having the conversation is now. The earlier you start, the more time you have to plan.
Did you notice in that video, folks, that it opened up, and his one very strong suggestion was, ask them what their concerns are. Don't go in with a preconceived idea that you have the panacea on how to solve everything. Ask them what their concerns are and what you can do, maybe in very simplistic ways. He gave the example of mowing the lawn for them, or maybe doing some chores that normally would be kind of hard for them to do there. And that's how then you get to the service to help others in the spirit of service. Again, I mentioned that we're all given these gifts, folks. That's part of God's plan for you. And in using those gifts, then boy, what He has entailed for each one of us is that big capital G, bigger than a Belgian horse. And remember, folks, what blessed are they who ease the pain of misfortune, for they shall be called insurance agents, carrying forth that spirit of service. You take care.